Hello there and welcome back to the Chap's Guide. Now today I've got a treat for you. I've got one of the most enigmatic watches on the market today. It's a beautiful piece. It's not something that I own. We're doing a bit of a collaboration today with a good friend of mine who's the owner of a Tudor Black Bay bronze, the infamous Triple B. And it's a beautiful, beautiful watch. He's owned it for a few months or 6 months or so, and he's going to share with us what he thinks about the piece, what it means to him, why he bought it. But before we do that, let's just turn the camera around. We'll have a look at the watch itself, talk about some of the statistics, then we'll meet the owner and talk about what attracted him to this wonderful watch. Okay, so here is the star of the show, the Tudor Heritage Black Bay Bronze, or the Triple B as it's been called by many. A watch which entered the Tudor lineup in 2019. Having replaced the 2016 version, which was very much of a brown colourway, and I think it's fair to say that Tudor introduced this slate grey sunburst dial very much to add commercial value to the watch, because that brown would have been, you know, a little bit divisive, really difficult to pair with clothing and things like that. But this slate grey is absolutely neutral. You can more or less wear it with anything. And it's a strap monster, as you can see. The owner here has it paired with a beautiful sort of antique green leather strap, which suits it down to the ground, goes well with that lovely case material. Now, what can I tell you about the watch? The important things that you really want to know. Well, it's a big old lump, this one. It's a 43mm case, as you can see. And it's quite a thick old fellow as well. It's 15.5mm, including that little bit of domed sapphire you can just see at the top. These dimensions make this the largest watch currently available in the Tudor range. But as soon as you see it, you can tell it's a Black Bay heritage line, because they all have a sort of distinctive appearance to them. But I think the thing really which stands out with this piece, the elephant in the room, so to speak, is that case material, and it is of course bronze. And in this case, it's a unique alloy of aluminium and copper, which gives it that very distinctive bronze appearance, which is the standout feature on this watch, it's fair to say. I mean, I think this started the current sort of zeitgeist which you see with other watch manufacturers bringing out their bronze pieces, you know, from Oris and all the other companies as well, you know, the big names, Panerai, things like that. So here we have this lovely Black Bay Triple B. As I say, it's got the domed sapphire crystal, as you'd expect on a watch of this standard, and it's a time-only complication. So no date, no other functions in there, just quite simply the time. It's told in minutes, hours and seconds. And as you can see on that hour hand, the enigmatic Tudor snowflake, which really is quite distinctive, and I think a beautiful addition to the Black Bay range. Now, it definitely has that heritage look, that retro look, and of course the bronze material puts you in mind straight away of, you know, the maritime architecture that you will see on perhaps ships of the older era, you know, the ship's bells, thinking about divers, that bronze helmets that divers used to wear, and here you see it very much in evidence here, and it looks perfect, I think, with a dive watch of this standard, which is a lovely, lovely piece. And what else can I tell you? Well, just continue with the stats. As I say, an in-house Tudor movement. In fact, it's the MT5601 movement in that watch, so designed and built in-house at the Tudor Works in Switzerland. So you're getting a fine piece. And that is, of course, a certified chronometer as well, certified by the Swiss Chronometer Institute, KOSK as it's called. So you know in confidence that this watch is going to keep time, it's going to tick on forever and a day, and it's always going to work within those parameters of a couple of seconds either way per day. Now, what else can I tell you? It's lug-to-lug measurement between my fingers there, 23mm, a little bit larger than the usual. I think most watches you'll find in the 20 to 22 range, but with this being a larger watch, you'd expect that as well. And as I say, that 43mm piece making this the largest watch in the current Tudor range. So quite a big old chunk. With that wonderful movement as well, you get a 70-hour power reserve. So this is a watch which is very practical. You can take it off on a Friday evening when you finish work, and it's still going to be ticking on a Monday morning with no necessity for you to play around with it, wind it. Luckily, it doesn't have a date complication anyway, so it's not a problem if you have to, but it just takes away that burden from you as well. And water resistance, 200 meters. So it is a true dive watch, with a unidirectional bezel which allows you to time your dive times and around the side. Very nice satisfying click to it as well. And there you see the Tudor large crown, the big crown, signed with the Tudor rose emblem, which used to be their primary emblem until quite recently when they swapped over to the Crusader crown, which currently adorns the dial of the watch. But a screw down crown, no crown guards, big large crown, easy to grab hold of, easy to adjust the time. This is an eminently practical watch. But the big thing is that bronze material. Why did they go for bronze? Well, I've heard this piece being described as a living material because, being bronze, it patinas with the passing of time and with the way that you live your life with the watch. So, you know, everybody's patination of the watch will be slightly different. If you wear your watch and you wear it every day, it'll be different to somebody who wears it maybe just a couple of times a week. If you get the watch wet regularly, it'll alter the patination. If you live in a humid climate, if you live in a dry climate, the acidity or the alkalinity of your skin will affect the way that this bronze material alters in its appearance. I mean, when it first comes, it has a bright, glowing, almost gold-like appearance, and then as time goes by, it will take on this patination, which changes and ages with you. And I think that's one of the appeals of bronze. You know, it is an ever-changing material, which will be different as the years pass. And of course, a watch like this, designed, built to this level of ruggedness, built of this material, is going to last generation after generation. Your kids' can wear this watch and it'll still be as accurate, still look as good, and that you can imagine, only imagine what that patination will look like in 20, 30, 40, 50 years time. Better and better it's going to get, that's for sure. And if you don't like the way it's patinizing, you can have it stripped back for a very small amount of money and start again. So if you want to go back to the drawing board, so to speak, you can change the way that your watch looks as you so wish. Now, how much do one of these booties do you have to fork out for? Well, currently today in the Tudor boutique, you will find this watch for £3,110. I passed a Tudor authorised dealer earlier today in a shopping centre, and they had this watch in both its versions on different straps available. So it's still very much available if you want to go out and buy one. They are easily achievable. They're not, weight listed like some of the other Rolex models from the same family of watches. So at least this watch can be purchased if you want to walk into the shop and buy it, which is a lovely, refreshing thing, I think. It comes on two different strap types, neither of which are represented here. Actually, the owner has placed his watch on a beautiful vintage leather strap, as you can see. But ordinarily, when you buy this watch, it comes on a NATO strap, which has a lovely slate grey colour with a central gold stripe down the middle, or it comes on a grey raw leather material strap as well. Very beautiful, very fitting and very keeping with the nature of this watch. So that's the basics and the statistics around this piece. And I think you will agree. It is very beautiful. It's heavily loomed, as you can see as well. Very easy to read. And it's just a watch, I think, which can be thrown on casually. Or, you can decide yourself whether you think it would go with a suit, whether it's a little bit too big. Would it ruck up the cuff of your dress shirt? It's up for you to sort of make that decision based on the size of your wrist. Again, this is 43mm piece. It's rather a large watch. I personally have a 6.5-inch wrist, and for me, I would probably say I would draw the line a little bit less than this. I'm currently wearing a Tudor Black Bay GMT, which is a 41mm piece. And as you can see, there is a decided difference when you look at them side by side. That Triple B, the Black Bay Bronze, it's got that wrist presence. It's got that little bit more. So if you've got a smaller wrist, I would strongly recommend that you make that journey to your authorized dealer and try it on. You know, be confident and sure that this is the right size watch for you, because if it's too big, you know, you don't feel comfortable with it, you know, it's a bit too late once you've made the purchase. So definitely try this one on, look at that patination, look at how it's going to think about how it's going to age with you and change in the passing of time. Now, just whilst we're talking about the patination, it's worth mentioning that the case back is actually made of a different alloy to the case. And the reason for that does not patina and it will not mark your wrist. So if you're thinking that bronze is going to leave some sort of green residue on your wrist if you wear it, as you would imagine bronze copper would, it doesn't do that. So they've thought of everything back at the Tudor factory, so you don't have to worry about that. So there we go. That's the watch itself. Now let's have a chat to the owner and see what attracted him to this beautiful piece. Well, here we are, and I'd like to introduce you to the owner of that beautiful watch. This is, of course, somebody you might recognize if you've seen some of our previous videos. This is Dr. John Williams. We've done a few collaborations in the past, and today he's allowed us to have a look at that wonderful Triple B watch. And now we're going to just find out about what attracted him to that piece, and just, you know, find out his owner experience with what is not an everyday run-of-the-mill watch, that's for sure. Well, welcome back to the channel, John.
Thank you, lovely to be here again.
Well, I mean, that is a beautiful watch, and I have to say I enjoyed looking at it, I enjoyed handling it. I mean, it's a weighty piece, but not so much so that it's unpleasant on the wrist, I'm sure. Well, I've got a couple of questions just to get us going. So my first question is, I mean, I remember when you were looking for this piece, or not necessarily this piece, we had a conversation, you were looking for a signature watch, a landmark watch, because you had a career retirement coming up, and you wanted something to mark that moment in your life. And you were looking for a piece, and what you talked about at the time was a Rolex Oyster Perpetual, the 39mm case job. Very different indeed to that Triple B. Yeah. What attracted you to it?
Well, I mean, it was a set of circumstances in many respects. I mean, anyone who's tried to get their hands on a stainless steel white or black face Oyster Perpetual will know that it's like hen's teeth these days. We went to London, we had a look around, there wasn't even one to be had to try on. I've got quite large wrists, and when I did get to try the Oyster Perpetual on, it didn't really have that impact that I wanted it to have. I own a couple of Omegas which are quite large, Planet Ocean, which is a 43mm as well, and I wanted something which was rugged. I wanted a dress watch originally because as a retirement piece I got sports watches, adventure watches, whatever you want to call them, but I wanted something which was a bit classier as a retirement gift. But the reality was that the Omegas will do that, they've got a foot in both camps, and I wanted something which was really going to be my version of a gold watch, I suppose is the best way to put it, something which I would look back on in future times, and every time I looked at it, it would make me smile. And so Tudor is a manufacturer that I've kept an eye on for many years. The bottom line is, when I looked at the Tudor Black Bay Bronze, tried it on, and I really liked it, and that was what kind of got me into it in the first place.
Yeah, so it's quite a lump, it's quite a piece, isn't it? 43mm. As I said, I think there in the stats piece, it is the largest watch which Tudor currently produce. In fact, there's nothing bigger even in the Rolex range. I think they only do, I think the Deep Sea is also 43mm, but there's nothing bigger. How do you get on with such a chunky piece? Do you find that the cuff of your sort of sleeve, you know, ruffles up behind it, or is it not a problem?
What people may notice is I wear it on my right wrist. I'm left-handed. I've always worn my watches on the right, so the crown will naturally be pointing up my arm towards where my cuff would be, so it's more likely to snag than if I was wearing it on my left wrist. I have had problems in the past with some other watches. I was a little concerned at first because it's a slightly top hat type of crown, and I was a bit concerned that it was going to snag, but the reality is that it doesn't. I've worn it with double cuffs, I've worn it with single barrel cuffs, and to be honest with you, there's no issues at all. Again, if you're wearing a single barrel cuff, or a double barrel. You just need to make sure that you have a slightly more open cuff on the right wrist. We did a video a while back where we were talking about a bespoke suit I have made, where I had some bespoke shirts made at the same time, and as part of that process I was asked whether I wore a watch and which wrist I wore it on, and they cut the shirts accordingly to give me a few more millimeters on my right cuff to allow for the cuffs to ride up and down. But even with off the peg stuff, it really hasn't been a problem for me. I mean, the weight of it itself, I think if it was on a strap, that might be a different matter, but of course it being a bronze watch, I can't really see you wearing a bronze strap with it, so that's never going to be an issue. And in everyday wear, as I'm used to fairly large watches anyway, and I wear my watches quite loose, not to the point where they're falling around my wrist, but I don't like them tight on my wrist, and I wear them down low, quite lower than my my wrist bone. To be honest with you, it feels lovely. It's not something which has ever made me think, oh, I've got a lump on my wrist here. I guess that's possibly is well balanced.
Yeah, it does. It suits your wrist proportions, I think, because you, as you say, you know, you and an orangutan probably have a bit in common with the wrists there. So, Tudor. I know you were interested in Rolex originally. Tudor, seen by many to be the sort of junior partner in the Rolex Foundation's ownership. Do you regret going Tudor, or is it something that you now buy into the ethos? Because I know you've never owned a Tudor.
No, to be honest with you, I think the more I think about it, the better I think my choice was. It's an in-house movement now, so it's not relying on a bought-in movement, which was a big draw for me as well, because it does give that certain degree of exclusivity to the watch. I've always been the kind of person, I'm of a certain age, I look a certain way, I'm certainly no model by anyone's standards. So, for example, if I was going to pull up outside somewhere, if I had the money, to be stepping out of a Lamborghini, people would look at me and they would think, look at that flash idiot. I kind of drew a similar analogy with Rolex. Everybody knows Rolex. Everybody from hip-hop stars to footballers to movie stars to Russian oligarchs, Rolex on the wrist. Everybody knows what it is. Tudor is a little bit more exclusive. It's a bit more of an appreciation for those who are in the know. And so I think it gives that little bit of extra cachet to it. It's something, there are a lot of watch manufacturers out there, there are very few people who aren't aware of different watch brands would know about. And this is most certainly one which falls into that category. I wouldn't really want a Rolex now I think about it. I mean, if I was going to choose a car, it would be a Porsche. It would be an everyday supercar, something which is elegant and timeless, and I kind of apply the same to the Tudor really. I'm quite happy that I went for something which isn't quite so well known.
That's a good way of putting it. Never thought of the Tudor as being the Porsche of the car world, but I guess when you say it like that, it certainly does. Now the big thing of course with the Triple B is the bronze material. How have you found, I mean, how long have you owned it now, and how have you found that patination?
I think I got it in February, March time. I wear it constantly. I mean, I bought it to be a watch that I would wear under any circumstances. I mean, as we said earlier on, this is my retirement gift to myself. I have a week left until my retirement. I bought it a little bit early because, you know, nobody knows how long they've got left. And the reality is that I wear it for everything. I wear it when I go out socially. I wear it if I'm in the garden. I've even worn it when I've been working on the car. And it's rugged, it's robust. The patination is, again, something which is going to be unique to anyone who wears it. Mine has got a lovely, mellow, warm shade. Again, I've dressed this with a green Italian vintage waxed leather strap, a deployment strap on a Tudor strap, and the watch takes on a slightly green cast as a result of it. I've got a tan strap, very similar to the one that Ash has got on his watch there, and I've also got the vintage black that it came with. And you find that when you swap the straps over, which is easy to do because it has little lug pushes at the side, so you haven't got to go to the faff of being able to try and get one of the removal tools in. They can literally push them out from the inside. So it's a 5-minute, if not less, changeover for the straps. It can go from being something which looks very outdoorsy, as it does with the green, to something which looks a lot more elegant when you put the black back on it. But I think the patination of it, it just gives it that uniqueness. if I had a stainless steel watch, I have stainless steel watches, they always look the same when I put them on. I haven't really noticed the evolution. I've Cape Cod clothed it once to just give it a bit of brightness back, but to be honest with you, the patination has now remained fairly constant. It's not getting darker all the time, and it's me.
Yeah, it looks good. That's one of the things I would say I like with the bronze, is it has a warmth. As I say, I've got a stainless steel piece on today. I've got the GMT, which is predominantly stainless steel, and there is a surgicalness to it, I would say, a crispness, which is different in the bronze. The bronze definitely has a warmth. That coloration, I think, does certainly lend itself well. So, the buying experience itself. Now, these watches currently on the market, 3,110. How did you? I know you didn't pay the full price for it. How was your experience around accessing one of those triple Bs?
Well, we did a video previously where we were talking about dressing the part, and we were outside Cribbs Causeway at the time, and I was saying then about going in to look at a watch. We went in to look at this. This wasn't actually available at the time. I tried a GMT on in one of the boutiques, but getting hold of it wasn't so much of it. Certainly wasn't at the Rolex treasure hunt. I tried on the Bucherer version. Bucherer is a boutique in almost exclusively in London now. I think there are 3 outlets in London.
We'll put a picture of that watch up on the screen now for you.
We went to Covent Garden, tried it on there. As I know Ash has said, that it's quite a large watch. You do want to try it on before you decide on buying it, because it might not be for you, but it was for me. So I tried the Bucherer Blue on, which is an exclusive colour only for Bucherer. I have to say the customer experience in there wasn't the best. I think you tend to find that if you go to London, because there are a lot of people there with a lot of money, you don't tend to get that very warm, customer-focused experience that you would. I tried other versions on in Mallory's in Bath, which was a world apart in customer experience, where you're made to feel very welcome and certainly very special. But I then sourced this online from a certified jeweller. It was brand new. It was basically one that had been bought and the customer then didn't pick it up. So I ended up paying 10% less than the list price for it. Obviously, if you're going to buy one, there's a lot of fakes out there, so you have to make sure you do go through a certified jeweller. I was comfortable that the person I was buying it from, or the company I was buying it from, was reputable, and I ended up paying £2,800 for it, which obviously that is a lot of money, but it's all about context. If you had £2,800 and you went and you bought yourself a car, you wouldn't really be expecting much, and if it lasted you 3 or 4 years, you'd probably be happy. I spent £2,800 on something which is definitely going to outlive me, and passed down from generation to generation, could still be on somebody's wrist 100 plus years from now. So I think that, in the scheme of things, as a retirement gift to myself, I think it's great value for money, and it makes me happy every time I look at it, which probably not with the £2,800 second-hand car, which would probably make me panic every time I looked at it.
No, and I think that's a great way of looking at, because we accept when you buy a quality watch, it's a substantial investment, so you've got to be sure that it's what you want. But then again, when you've made that decision, to think that it's going to be on somebody's wrist possibly in 100 years, and its journey started with you, that's the wonder of it. So one last question for you, John.
Yeah.
You love Tudor now. What's next?
Well, it really depends. I mean, I know that they've just brought out the Black Bay 58 in blue. I've had a look at it. It does look a little bit monochromatic for my liking. I would buy another Tudor. I certainly like the vibe of the brand. I mean, this is something for me. My retirement is taking me abroad. I'm emigrating to a house in the mountains in Transylvania, and this is going to be on my wrist for a long time, when I'm chopping wood, when I'm doing work around the house, when I'm hiking, when I'm doing all the things out there. So far the robustness has been without question. The only thing I would say is, with anything with the strap on, is just make sure that you get yourself good lugs between, because this is always going to be the weak points.
Oh, the spring bars.
Yeah, the spring bars. And I ordered heavy duty spring bars, paid about £10 for them. However, I know they're staying in place. The last thing you want is to catch the watch on something and then find a couple of minutes later that it's no longer on your wrist. But yeah, I would definitely have another Tudor. I've done my Omega thing. I think the Omega hype now because of the Bond films I love my Omegas, and I would have always considered myself somebody that gravitated towards that particular brand. But having owned this, having the pleasure of having something which is such a chameleon watch, you can dress it up, dress it down based on the straps that you put on it. It goes as well, as you can see, with what I'm wearing today, which is sort of semi-casual smart. I would wear it with a suit. I might not wear it with a dinner jacket. I might probably go for something more stainless or more classic then. But certainly the bang for buck that you get now with Tudor, again with a Porsche analogy, you're looking at a Rolex which would be like a 911, which is the top end, cutting edge, fabulous performance, fabulous price. Or a Cayman, where you get 90% of the performance for 50% of the price. And you've got to ask yourself, how much of that are you going to use? I'm never going to dive below 200 meters. If it gets to that stage, then they'll be plucking this off my corpse, I imagine. So as a result of that, I know that I don't need to go for something like a Submariner. I'm never going to use the quality of the parts that are there. For the construction, for the quality, this is going to last. I know it's going to last. Yes, it was a lot of money, but my ethos on this is that the pleasure of the thing endures long after the pain of the payment. And something that gives me pleasure every time I look at it is worth every penny. Yeah, it was a lot of money. I've worked all my life as a retirement gift for myself. Because I didn't buy the Rolex, there's still a few pounds left in the theoretical pot that I would definitely put towards another Tudor. And there's a lot of movement with Tudor at the moment in time, so I think I'd hang back for a year or so.
Very wise.
See what comes out. I know that with the blue that's come out, they're looking at bringing out other colourways as well. So I think it's watch this space, but definitely I consider myself a bit of a Tudor man now.
Excellent. Well, there we go. Well, thanks, John, for sharing your beautiful Triple B Black Bay bronze with us today. I mean, now I see it again. I mean, I saw it some time ago when you bought it, but it's definitely taken on a different look, and it gets better with time. I look forward to seeing it in a couple of years when it'll be a different piece again. They say it's the living watch. Now I understand why. So I hope you've enjoyed this conversation about this wonderful watch with us here today. My thanks to John for sharing his piece with us. If you have enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up. Click that subscribe button as well so you don't miss our future material. And as ever, I wish you well. I hope you and your families remain safe, and we'll meet each other again very soon.